Welcome back. This week we are going to use the story of Job to focus on the importance of open communication with God and the intimacy it creates. As Christians, we may think our prayers and conversations with God should always be full of thanksgiving and praise, even in the middle of our difficulties. God sent Jesus to sacrifice himself for us and made our salvation possible. Our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. How can any earthly trial or difficulty take away from the joy of those eternal gifts? Shouldn't we, as Philippians 4:4 instructs, rejoice in the Lord always? Again, I will say, rejoice. Before we answer this question, let us look at the Bible for examples of how we could respond to trials and difficulty, beginning with our friend Job. Job did not have the privilege of living on the earth after Jesus' sacrifice was made, and did not receive the offer of salvation in his lifetime. However, he did have an intimate relationship with God and lived as a man blessed and valued by him. As we studied in our first session, God was so pleased with Job that he held him up before Satan as the finest man in all the earth. After prolonged suffering in the depths of despair, even Job struggled to continue rejoicing. He addresses God with frustration and bitterness in chapter 30, saying, I cry out to you, God, but you do not answer. I stand up, but you merely look at me. You turn on me ruthlessly. With the might of your hand you attack me. You snatch me up and drive me before the wind. You toss me about in the storm. I know you will bring me down to death. Job does not stand alone in the Bible as one who laments to God during trials. The 13th Psalm of David also begins with questions of despair. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? As David expressed his honest emotions and feelings, he began to see a different perspective, and just a few verses later he says, But I have trusted in your mercy. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. What do these examples teach us? First of all, we can see that suffering and tragedy are part of the human experience, even of one who fears and loves God. No person is exempt from them. Secondly, we learn that it is not necessary to hide our emotions when going through these difficult times. God knows all things, including what is in our hearts, and even if it's not pretty, we can express it to him. Through this expression, we can feel that the strength and hope of God come into our circumstance. We can see this very clearly in Lamentations 3. For 21 verses, the writer very explicitly describes his anguish. But then in verse 21, something happens. This I recall to my mind, therefore I have hope. Through the Lord's mercies we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I hope in him. And finally, Job also begins to see a new perspective through his conversation with God. Job 42 states, I know that you can do everything, and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. And here the Lord responds in the 7th verse, saying to Eliphaz, My wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Our willingness to express ourselves to God brings us closer to him. Our communication and openness are very important for us to have intimacy with God and to feel his strength and hope. In times of pain, grief, and anger, we cannot give up on God and become silent, but rather should pour out ourselves to him, just as the example of Job. He emerged from tragedy not only with his faith intact, but also with it strengthened.